Hey guys, in this video, I'll show you the best bow build for solo play. Most of my builds already include a bow variant, but this build will use bow on both front bar and back bar, which I haven't done before because if you're looking at pure performance, it's never optimal to use bow on back bar in solo. I have tested it by soloing veteran hard mode Scalecaller peak dungeon and veteran hard mode Falkreath dungeon. When it comes to ESO content creation, there are lots of untested scam builds out there, so you'll be able to find both recordings and logs of both of the 4-man dungeons I've soloed in the description, so you can see for yourself that this build actually works. You can use this build to obliterate any kind of regular solo content like arenas, world bosses, dolmens, dragons, volcanic vents, harrow storms, mirror mirror incursions, etc. Because all of these things are 100 times easier than soloing 4-man DLC dungeons in veteran or hard mode difficulties, which this build is capable of. The build parses 69.2k DPS on the 6 and buff dummy with the final gear, and the DPS only goes down to 67.6k when using only crafted gear. Just wanted to have that said because my videos tend to have an unusually high amount of people complaining that they're screwed because they can't farm the Ansel set, which comes from trials. But the DPS difference, as you can see, is extremely minimal. The build is also my website, so if you prefer written guides over YouTube videos, you can read it there instead. The link will be in the description. Let's start with subclassing. This build uses Nightblade's Assassination, Warden's Animal Companions, and Sorcerer's Stormcalling skill lines. Your base class does not matter. Assassination provides a lot of critical chance and critical damage with its passives, and grants us access to extremely strong skills like Merciless Resolve and Soul Harvest. Animal Companion skill line is crucial because in a bow build, we do not have access to Elemental Susceptibility and Elemental Blockade, so we need a different source of Major Breach and Minor Breach, and that source will be the Deep Fissure skill from Animal Companion skill line. It also grants us access to Bull Edge, which grants a damage boost, sustain, and purges debuffs. Stormcalling is a skill line with decent passives that's also going to give us access to the Major Resolve buff through the Hurricane skill. Moving on to skills. This is the base setup that will work for most situations and which should be your starting point when making situational setups. First we have Focused Aim, a ranged spammable with a massive range that applies standard stats effect. Next, Deep Fissure. Deals a lot of damage per cast, provides around 9000 penetration by debuffing enemies with both Major and Minor Breach, and provides 5% critical damage through the Advanced Species passive. Merciless Resolve is an ability that will cause your light attacks to generate stacks, which increase your weapon and spell damage. You can spend 5 stacks to fire a powerful arrow that also heals you if you're in melee range. Stop using the active ability once your enemy is below 25% max health. Killer's Blade is an execute you should switch to when your enemy is below 30% max health. Next, Camouflage Hunter. This skill will possibly provide 12% critical chance through the Major Savagery and Major Prophecy buffs. It can also grant you Minor Berserk for 5 seconds whenever you critically strike an enemy from a flank, which increases your damage done by 5%. Flanking means anywhere but the 90 degrees radius in front of the enemy, so you can trigger the Minor Berserk even on an enemy who's in front of you, by constantly moving to the left and right. Soul Harvest is a cheap ultimate that increases target's damage taken from you by 20%. This is the ultimate you should use in single target fights. Having it slotted will also cause you to regain 10 ultimate whenever you deal a final blow against an enemy. Next we have Hurricane, an ability which provides a crucial Major Resolve buff, which provides almost 6000 armor, and it deals very good damage. It also grants you a 15% movement speed buff during its duration. Poison Injection is a strong dot, which deals increased damage against low health enemies. Next is Bull Edge, provides a lot of stamina sustain, a 5% damage boost, constantly purges debuffs, and also provides 5% crit damage through Advanced Species. Endless Hail is a ground dot, which will apply your weapon damage enchantment. Barb Trap is a dot that will also apply Hemorrhage stats effect at the start, and grant you Minor Force buff, increasing your critical damage by 10%. Shooting Star is a powerful ultimate that deals damage on AoE, and grants you ultimate for each enemy hit with the initial blast. Use it in AoE fights, or when you start fights with high amount of ultimate stored up. So that was the base setup, but now I'm gonna show you a bunch of situational skills, which you can use to tailor this base setup to specific fights. Poison Injection is the first skill that has to go when you need to slot something situational, unless the situational skill specifically says that it's replacing something else. If it has to be a front bar skill, then the first skill that has to go is Killer's Blade. First we have Critical Surge, a very strong self-heal. It can also be used as your main source of healing, before you obtain the Ring of the Pelorder Mythic. Next we have Resolving Vigor. Use it for more difficult fights, where the pressure is constant, and thus you need the minor resolve. It can also be used in fights with invulnerability phases, where you can't heal with Ring of the Pelorder, Reaving Blows, or Critical Surge. Soul Burst, with the Bleed, Lingering Torment, and Courage combination on it, is an AoE dot which grants you minor courage, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 215. Use it in fights where you need more AoE damage. Silver Leash is a chain ability that you can slot in trash packs, to stack enemies and get through them faster. Ulfsted's Contingency, with the Bleed, Gladiator's Tenacity, and Force combination on it. It's a replacement for Barb Trap, in fights where you need more damage mitigation. It's a delayed AoE damage that also grants you 8% damage reduction for 8 seconds, and minor force for 22 seconds, which increases your critical damage by 10%. You should recast it every 8 seconds when under pressure, and every 22 seconds otherwise. Next we have Revealing Flare. Use it for more difficult fights, where you, once again, need more damage mitigation. It's a skill that passively grants major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10%. It will also trigger the Magicka 8 passive, which increases your Magicka recovery by 10%. Acid Spray is a decent AoE dot, for when you need more AoE damage. Next we have Precognition, an ultimate that breaks you out of some otherwise unavoidable stuns. You'll need it to get around some mechanics which are otherwise impossible or very difficult to solo, like for example Infernus Hold in Zan the Scalecaller fight. Now let me show you a bunch of examples of how your final setup could look after you apply these situational skills to your base setup. This is the ideal setup for trash packs. Acid Spray replaces Killer's Blade because it can be used as an AoE spammable. Ulfsted's Contingency replaces Barb Trap because it deals damage in an AoE while also providing minor force. Silver Leash replaces Poison Injection because it allows you to stack enemies. This is a setup with lots of damage mitigation for bosses that hit very hard. Revealing Flare replaces Killer's Blade because it grants 10% damage mitigation. Ulfsted's Contingency replaces Barb Trap because it grants 8% damage mitigation while also providing minor force. And Critical Surge replaces Poison Injection because it provides a lot of HPS. And here's a bunch of examples of setups I've made against specific bosses. This is a setup I've used when fighting Orzhun the Foul-Smelling and Runaris the Rancid in the Scalecaller Peak dungeon. Acid Spray replaces Killer's Blade, so you can damage both Ogres and Skivers. This is a setup I've used when fighting Zan the Scalecaller in the Scalecaller Peak dungeon. Precognition replaces Shooting Star, so you can get out of the Infernus Hold mechanic. And this is a setup I've used when fighting Domehouse the Bloody Horned in the Falkreath Hold dungeon. Acid Spray replaces Killer's Blade to help with cleaving down the Archnax. And Soul Burst replaces Poison Injection for the exact same reason, to help with cleaving down the Archnax. Now as for rotation, I don't use a static rotation, so this is just a list of priorities. Simply recast abilities when they run out, and follow the list of priorities when there are multiple things to refresh. Use Bullnetch, use Dip Fissure, Endless Hail, Barbed Trap, Hurricane, Poison Injection. If it's an AoE fight, or you're starting at or close to 200 ultimate, use Shooting Star. If it's a single target fight, use Soul Harvest. If an enemy is below 15% HP, use Killer's Blade. If you're at 9 stacks and the enemy is above 15% HP, use Merciless Resolve. If enemy is below 30% HP, use Killer's Blade. And use Focused Aim as a filler. Keep in mind that you can pre-buff Bullnetch, Dip Fissure and Hurricane before entering combat. Now as for passives. I am now very quickly going through all of the passives you should get on the screen. You can either pause the video or look up this list on the website guide. Moving on to gear. This is the base setup that will work for most situations and which should be your starting point when making situational setups. So, Ansel's Torment, Tideborn Wildstalker, Ring of the Pelorder Mythic, Bagbard Thunderous Volley, and One Piece Slamcrow, or any monster set with a critical chance 1 piece. If you want to switch to a situational set, it's best to replace Ansel's Torment, if the situational set you're getting has a minor Slayer line, and to replace Tideborn Wildstalker otherwise. When replacing Tideborn Wildstalker with a medium armor set, change your Slamcrow headpiece to light armor type. Now, this is a list of situational gear. Sul'Zan's Torment is the best set for trash packs, and for bosses that regularly spawn smaller adds. Order's Wrath is better than Ansel's Torment in Overland content, where you don't benefit from the minor Slayer and penetration bonus lines. Vestments of Olorim provides 430 weapon and spell damage, 5% damage reduction from minor Aegis, and can be backbarred without losing anything, allowing for much more flexibility with gear. It's the ideal set for more difficult fights. Roxa the Warped is a monster set which provides a lot of sustain. You will only have space for it when backbarring Olorim. Armor of the Trainee's 1-piece bonus provides 1454 max health. It also comes in any weight, so we can use it on the chest piece, which combined with the reinforced trait will provide a lot of armor. Now this is a list of alternative gear, so gear that is easier to obtain and can be used while you work towards the best gear, which is basically two things, Order's Wrath and Tideborn Wildstalker. No Overland, Dungeon or Trial gear is listed, because the crafted options are just superior, excluding the stuff listed in the situational list. Now let me show you a bunch of examples of final setups you could end up with. This is the crafted gear setup, which can be a good starter. Use training traits if you're still leveling. If you're already max level and have enough champion points, you can instead use divines. The weight distribution of the setup is 1 heavy, 5 medium and 1 light, so that you can start leveling up all your armor skill lines. Once you transition to regular setup, you'll be using 6 medium and 1 light most of the time, switching to 1 heavy, 5 medium, 1 light only against more difficult fights. The setup in the table uses only crafted gear, but if you already own some parts of the regular setup, like Ring of the Pale Order, you can start using them immediately. If you want to solo some difficult content without Ring of the Pale Order, you will have to switch to Critical Surge, or add Rimming Blows to your CP setup. Next, this is a setup you should use if you have no access to any trial gear. Ansu's Torment gets replaced by Order's Wrath. This is the ideal setup for trash packs. Ansu's Torment gets replaced by Sul'Zan's Torment. And this is the ideal setup for extremely difficult fights, where you need lots of damage mitigation and sustain. Ansu's Torment is now frontbarred, instead of being fully on body. Tideborn Wildstalker and Thunderous Volley get replaced by backbarred Vestments of Olorim. This creates space for adding a monster set, Roxa the Warped, and 1 piece of Armor of the Trainee set on your chest slot, with heavy armor weight and reinforced trait. You can change some, or all of the stamina enchants to health ones, for extremely hard hitting bosses. Moving on to champion points. In the blue tree, you'll want to use Master at Arms, Deadly Aim, Fighting Finesse, and Wrathful Strikes. When soloing extremely difficult dungeons, you should replace Wrathful Strikes and Fighting Finesse with 2 of the 4 mitigation slotables that match the fight's damage type, so Ironclad, Duelist Rebuff, Unassailable, and Enduring Resolve. Huge majority of the times is going to be Ironclad and Duelist's Rebuff. Rimming Blows is another decent blue CP for when you need more HPS. In the red tree, you'll want to use Mundus Vitality, Bloody Renewal, Rejuvenation, and Fortified. Make sure to use Bracing Anchor in fights where you have to block a lot of attacks, and where you don't have to move that much. And remember to use Celerity in fights where you have to move a lot. Moving on to race. When it comes to solo PvE, you need both damage and survivability, so pretty much all races have useful ratios. The best race for dealing damage is Khajiit. While the critical damage from Feline Ambush can sometimes be wasted, due to critical damage being capped at 125%, it will never happen in solo content, because there will be no tanks or healers, providing you with the major force buff. The best race for survivability, and what I am using, is Nord. The Ragged racial will provide around 6% damage mitigation. Now Mundus. For instant content, you should use the Lover Mundus, which increases penetration. For overland content, you should use the 5th Mundus, which increases critical chance. For extremely difficult dungeons, you should consider switching to the Lady Mundus, which increases your armor. Now attributes. For most content, you should put all 64 points into stamina. For difficult content, you should devote as many attribute points as necessary to health. For some content you'll be able to get away with 32 health, 32 stamina. For the extremely difficult stuff, you'll need 64 health. Moving on to food. Your sustain can vary greatly because it's impacted by your armor weight composition, your race, and how much blocking or dodge rolling you're required to do in a certain fight. Choose the food with more stamina recovery if you can sustain. So first we have garlic cod with potato crust. It provides max health and max stamina, and it is the default option. Next we have Orzorga's Trap Truffle Pocket, which provides max health and stamina recovery. Use it when you need more stamina recovery. And then we have Orzorga's Smoked Bear Haunch. Provides maximum health, stamina recovery, and magicka recovery. Use it when you can't sustain your magicka skills. Jewels of Mithril is a cheaper alternative. Moving on to potions. Most of the time, you should use tri-slot potions. They will greatly improve your sustain. You can craft them by combining Columbine, Bugloss, and Mountain Slower. There are better potions, but they're extremely expensive. Heroism potions can provide 100% uptime on minor heroism buff, which generates ultimate. But they're extremely expensive because they're crafted by combining Dragon Realm, Dragon's Blood, and Columbine. Moving on to Parse. As I've said at the beginning of the video, the regular setup parses 69,200 on the 6 mana buff dummy. When using only crafted gear, the DPS only goes down to 67,600. You can find a link to a video showing the 69k parse in the description. And that's it for this video. If you have any more questions, you can comment down below or join our Discord server Wildheart. As always, feedback will be appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my Twitch. Thanks for watching and see you next time.